All right, y'all. So this is part 5 of the Singles Ministries story time. So part 5 is spiritual exchange. So I started telling you guys about how um, God did a mic drop with the "I love you with the love of Christ," and where this past Saturday and the Saturday before that, the individuals that responded to, whether it be direct response because I said "I love you with the love of Christ," or whether it be a response because they know that that's a need, they just left it at "I love you," and God dropped the mic and was like, we ain't got to add the love of Christ because we know that's what it is, because I put that. They didn't say that, I said that. God put it inside of them to say that. And so this one is called spiritual exchange because when those things happen where it's the same exact same verbiage, just exact same manner, it's not those individuals, it's the Spirit. And for those particular situations, it was the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God. God is letting me know that I'm loved, right? And I've had that happen in different ways. I talked one time about, and some of these things are a little bit scary. I'm gonna tell you, and because I'm scared a little bit to speak about those church situations, to be honest with you, because there's a lot going on there. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot, and there's a lot of spiritual things going on, like spiritual wickedness, spiritual divinity that's good, but it's weird. And I'm going to get to that, but I'll speak on this and I'll leave it alone. So this is scary. So, and I've had dreams too. I have prophetic dreams, and I've had 3 dreams, and the last dream really annoyed me because somehow the pastor got into it. And this last dream that I had, the first 2 I've written down already. I don't think I even did an interpretation of the 3rd dream. But the 3rd dream was like I was in this big cafeteria, kind of like the fellowship hall, where I was waiting for that second opportunity for the new member orientation that I was asked to go to before everyone else, and I was told that it was confidential, but it was not confidential. But I think what happened is someone else says you did not say that it was confidential and include other people. And then they decided to make sure that I wasn't even able to attend, even though I showed up. But that's a whole other story. But it was like that, like a big cafeteria style, like you would see in a high school cafeteria. And I was sitting there with all the other high school people. For some reason, I might have been, you know, it was a high school environment, and I was a high school person per se in my dream. And the pastor was like another high school person. Our age break wasn't as big, maybe 5 years versus 20 years, or however many years of difference we are. He's very young. But so what happens is I'm sitting there having lunch, and then he has this hoodie on. He comes over and he hands me this piece of paper. Now, the piece of paper, I forget what it says, but it's nothing crazy, but it's something about work or an assignment. But it's weird because, everybody else is getting these flyers and I'm getting this piece of paper. And I don't remember, but I remember waking up because it was like a little nap. I only took like a 2-hour nap. And I wasn't even thinking about the church. I wasn't thinking about the pastor. And it made me mad. I was upset that, why am I having this dream? I don't even want this individual in my dreams, But I didn't do an interpretation. I'm pretty sure it probably has something to do with me going to that new member orientation. But I've gotten so used to that insanity that it doesn't even register with me. I just know that it's something that needs to be addressed, in time to come. And God will give me the time to come when it comes to that. And He will do it the appropriate way. But, and like I said, this was an invitation that was given to me only initially. Then the week after, it was sent out to everyone else. And I think because there was probably some type of advisement that happened, which, again, I have an understanding of all this because this weirdness has been weird for a while. And there's other stories too. But anyways, that whole thing is a mess. I need to leave it alone. But and even the story I'm about to tell is a mess too, so I should probably leave that alone too. But basically, the pastor went away, and I used to go to every single church function, every service that I could, I would go, because it was like every time I went to church, I got something, and I'm always looking to give something. And when I say I got something, it was almost prophetic. But what I'm realizing in hindsight is that it was God trying to give me these messages. So in this particular church thing, it was away. It wasn't a home church thing. We were away. And while we were away, it was so weird because I had this children's book that I was working on, and the children's book was Adventures of Yaya, right? And when I got to this particular church, Magnolia Church, the little girl asked me, was I a child or an adult? And that's exactly what the book was based on. It was so weird, but I thought I was going to reach out, but I never did because I couldn't find the video online to reach out to those folks. And then also, I wasn't 100%, because sometimes the message that I was getting was so clear that sometimes I have to take myself out of the message in person so that I can actually get what I'm supposed to get out of it. So I decided while I was there, because the message was so vehement, I decided that I was there, I was going to record the message and not really pay attention. I know I was intentionally not paying attention. I'm not going to pay attention while I'm there and work on some other stuff. So I caught bits and pieces of it. What I thought I heard was something about the virgins, so I'm thinking about the 10 virgins and the lamp, and then something about somebody being replaced. And I thought I heard Esther, then I heard Vashti, if you don't show up, somebody else will. And I heard all these things, but I'm just like, okay, I'm going to, go back and review this and go along with the Bible, because, I haven't studied this section. And even with the 10 virgins at the time, I'm not really big on all of that, so I needed to, right? And so lo and behold, it's time to go, and I'm thinking on the way home on the church van, I'm going to listen to the sermon and take notes and then prepare myself to go to a deep dive when I get home. So as I go to listen to the sermon, I didn't realize that on that particular phone I was using, I can't work on other stuff and record, so it didn't record it. Then I was like, okay, no problem. The pastor or somebody, it's going to be uploaded to Facebook. Nope, we didn't have anybody recording on our end. Okay, well, that church is going to upload it. Nope, nobody on their end recorded it. They had some technical issues, right? So there was no recording. And so I was like, well, I haven't read the Bible in a couple of weeks. And I was on the journey of reading the Bible from beginning to end, just in the order of the Bible, right? And I think I was finishing Nehemiah. I didn't realize it, but I knew I was somewhere between Nehemiah and Esther. So when I got back, I was like, oh, okay, I've done all this. I read all of Nehemiah. I'm like, good. It was so coincidental, because then the week after that, another church came to visit the church that I was going to, and they preached on Nehemiah and how we needed to work together. And basically, people were trying to tear down Jerusalem and they were saying they weren't going to rebuild it because they were scared it was going to come back stronger. And that's kind of, what I was going through. And then I had that sermon preached to me again by a whole different pastor. It's so weird, the duplicity, the synchronicity of it all. But back to this story about Esther. So, I was like, okay, here I am. I'm in the book of Esther. And as I was reading, I was like, oh, this sounds really familiar. So that's what he was reading from. He was reading from the book of Esther. And basically, Vashti was beautiful. But basically, God didn't. How does the ant get on my arm way up here? This is so crazy. So, also, I want to let you know, these marks on my arms, because I used to think when I wasn't marginalized to this extent that people were on drugs. These are ant bites. Ants bite you because you're sitting in weird places, okay? Just so you know, I'm not on drugs. So if you see me and you see these little marks, these are ant bites. That's what they are. Okay, if you see videos about homeless people and you're like, oh, what's that? They're ant bites. They're not necessarily, I don't think. I know for me, they're ant bites. And I'm pretty sure for the majority of people they are too. But anyhow, so it's so weird, because the exact lesson that I missed, that I couldn't get anywhere else. I couldn't get it directly from the pastor. I couldn't get it from, my recording. And I couldn't get it from the church recording, because none of those recordings existed. Not because we didn't want them to exist, they just didn't. I had to get the message directly from God. And God will do that so many times. And then another time he preached on idols or whatever. And I happened to be, like I said, reading through the books of the Bible. Now I'm reading them in chronological order. I happen to be, I think, in Jubilees. Is it Jubilees or Jasher? I think it was Jasher, where they were talking about the idols, So it's an energy. And then I only have 45 seconds. So recently, I was at another part, and, I was giving out my information again for my newsletters. And, sometimes people give the wrong information just because, they're thinking it's something else, but it's not. And this guy, another one that, is into God or whatever, he was telling me, let God lead me. And he was telling me, you don't understand what I'm saying. I'm leaving soon. I don't know if he's trying to get me to, I don't know what the deal is. But I was just like, well, that's fine. You can leave soon. God will send me somebody else, And lo and behold, those words were prophetic, because God keeps sending me people. But anyways, so that's the energy exchange. God will send the same message different ways. And the devil does that too. So if you keep running into the same problems with the exact same words with different people, different facilities and things like that. It's the devil. Anyways, we'll continue next time.